Guided only by his faith, Abraham leads his extended family to the land which will fulfill God's promise to him.
When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abraham passed through the land to the oak of Morah. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, "To your descendants I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. Genesis 12:7.
But Abraham's spiritual odyssey is far from over. No sooner does he reach the land which God has promised to him than he must leave for Egypt.
Now there was a famine in the land. So Abraham went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. Genesis 12:10.
When Abraham leads his family to Egypt, Sarah's beauty is quickly noticed. She is taken away from Abraham and placed in the Pharaoh's household. Foreshadowing the story of Moses' exodus from Egypt, God inflicts plagues on this Pharaoh. Sarah is allowed to rejoin Abraham, and together they return to their land. Soon afterward, Abraham travels to the small village of Bethel, about 10 miles north of Jerusalem. He and his nephew Lot separate to allow room for their herds, with Lot journeying into the Jordan Valley. Abraham is now called upon to serve a role unlike any he has assumed before. Abraham, who has been portrayed as a spiritual leader, is now depicted in the Bible as a warrior. He rescues his nephew Lot, who is being held captive by enemy kings. The cities of the kings are, strangely, said to be in an area that today is so desolate, human habitation seems almost impossible.
One of the most peculiar stories in Genesis about Abraham is Genesis 14, the war with the kings of the east. There are 5 cities of the plain, somewhere in the area of the Dead Sea, where we would not expect large urban sites to be.
As is often the case, archaeological discoveries seem to support the Bible's telling of the story.
Is there any archaeological or historical background for Genesis 14? Well, in recent years, perhaps by coincidence, 5 large late 3rd millennium cities have been found on the eastern shore of the Dead Sea.
After Abraham rescues his nephew Lot and triumphs in battle, he is visited by one of the most mysterious figures in the Bible, the priest-king Melchizedek.
And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And Abraham gave him 1/10 of everything. Genesis 14:20.
The brief, unexplained meeting between Abraham and this mysterious priest-king has long puzzled and intrigued scholars. For Christians, this righteous priest-king holds special significance.
Melchizedek became a mystical figure for Jewish and Christian mysticism, and became a figure of great importance as a precursor for Jesus, as a priest or a servant of God, whom they all revered as the first great non-Hebrew righteous man.
After Abraham's enigmatic meeting with Melchizedek, the focus of the Bible shifts to offer a startling glimpse of Abraham's intimate personal life.
Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bore him no children. She had an Egyptian maid whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said to Abraham, "Behold now, "The Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go to my maid. It may be that I shall obtain children by her." And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah. Genesis 16:2.
We've been focusing on Abraham. It is Sarah who determines the future of the Jewish people. And the relationship between Sarah and Hagar is really the determinative relationship in what happens in Abraham's household.
Hagar, Sarah's servant, conceives a child by Abraham. But a feud erupts between Sarah and the pregnant Hagar, which will foreshadow the conflict to come between two branches of Abraham's descendants, Jew and Muslim, which will erupt centuries later.
And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. And Sarah said to Abraham, "May the wrong done to me be on you. I gave my maid to your embrace, and when she saw she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt." Genesis 16:5.
The Bible relates that Hagar does give birth to a son, Ishmael. According to Muslim belief, he will become one of the founders of Islam. But in the Bible, it is Sarah and her offspring who will determine Abraham's future and assure the survival of the Jewish people.
I think that the Bible would have us understand that although Abraham brings the vision of God to this family, it's Sarah who tends it and will pass it on. And like many people of his kind, perhaps Abraham didn't have the practical wisdom and the everyday insight to make this vision come true. And it's Sarah who literally embodies the vision. And maybe she's saying to Abraham, "Look, I know you have this great idea, but trust me, this is the way to ensure its perpetuation."
Abraham and his extended family would eventually become the first Israelites, and Abraham the patriarch of the Jewish people.